Hi, and welcome. We are live here on the Inquisitive Analyst Show. And my guest today is a seasoned entrepreneur. He's an e-commerce specialist. He's a business strategist with that passion for business model innovation. He is the founder of the Business Model Analyst website, and he's become a leading authority on business model canvas, analyzing over 200 models and sharing lots of insights with millions of readers annually. With this rich career spanning startups, SaaS development, and consulting, my guest has successfully scaled businesses. He's driven digital transformation. He's managed multi-million-dollar e-commerce operation, and he's all about strategy, all about workflow automation, and all about innovation. So please help me welcome to today's show, all the way from Ottawa, Daniel Pereira. Welcome, Daniel.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being on the show. Much appreciated. Now, you are the founder and content strategist for the Business Model website. So let's talk a bit about Business Model Canvas. And as some out there might know, it's a one-page template, and it helps outline sort of key elements of a business, helping organizations, helping individuals effectively pretty much map out their business strategy. So Daniel, tell me, what initially drew you to the Business Model Canvas, and how has it really helped shape your career in business analysis?
Yeah, sure. So my career actually started at a university incubator, where I was the consultant responsible to help all of the candidates to develop their business plan. So you had a bunch of different entrepreneurs that were usually, doing their graduation or postgrad course, and they would try to get into the university to become, to incubate their companies. But sometimes they would run into the difficulty of developing a proper business plan. So the university incubator decided to offer that sort of like a free consulting to them, so they would have like nice business plans, and don't incur in the problem of awesome ideas with awesome entrepreneurs just not developing a proper business plan to be evaluated by the committee that they had back then. So over the span of 2 years, I helped develop over 300 different business plans, and now sometimes people would mention business model. That was a term that was used in different ways. Sometimes people were talking about the operational side. Sometimes they were talking about the revenue model. So there was not really a consensus. There was not like a proper use of it. But it was always like, okay, it's not a business plan. It's business model. What is it? The fact is, I went in to work at IBM a couple of years later, and while I was working there, IBM Consulting branch developed this, released this survey, sort of like a study that they did with the 150 different CEOs, asking what were their priorities for the next few years. And in number one answer in that survey was business model innovation. So I said, okay, I gotta look into this, and then I decided just to kind of Google, and I ran into this early blog written by a guy called Alexander Stilwalder, who was creating this framework to kind of create one single definition and one interpretation of what a business model is. He eventually came up with a visual framework, which is nowadays known as the Business Model Canvas. And it was very fascinating to actually, look into business plans and try to transfer it to that single page framework. So I was actually looking at a document that used to have 30, 40, 50 pages. And I was pretty much just putting into a one-page framework that you could visually understand the entire business. So that was very exciting. Yeah, of course, I was not the only one that was excited about this. That's why I think business model canvas became so popular, was the fact that it didn't feel like you were writing a book. You were just kind of prototyping and just coming up with hypotheses and playing around, being using that visual framework to be flexible, and just kind of like try to visualize different possibilities for a business. So that's pretty much how I ran into it. So I could say I was one of the very early adapters of the business model canvas. And then it kind of became a hobby, and that's just like using it to analyze different businesses.
Fascinating. I stumbled on your website not too long ago, and I thought, why haven't I seen this before? Like 4 years ago, 6 years ago, when I was looking into this stuff. So I'm glad you can explain it to the audience. Fantastic. Now, how do you approach analyzing and designing business models using the business model canvas framework?
Well, pretty much using what it's called the construction blocks, right? So the business model canvas has 9 different construction blocks, and it kind of guides you through the understanding of a company. You start by understanding what is the customer segments, and then understanding what's the value proposition, and then you move into channels. But usually the way I do it, it's either I know about that company or I will do a deeper research into it. Nowadays, with AI, things have changed, of course, but back in the day, I would use a lot of publication articles in news websites. Sometimes I would find other blog posts or interviews with founders, whatever was that source of information that could help me answer not the entire business model at once, but that specific block I was looking into. Sometimes you have to, kind of like guess and see if that would make sense, because there was just not, information available about it. Especially when you are looking into what is called the backstage of the business model. Because a business model has 2 different sides. You have the side which is the front stage, which is the one that is facing the customers, which is widely open. Very easily you understand what is the pricing they're practicing or the channels they are using. But when it's about like cost structure or key activities or resources or even partnerships, you sometimes have to kind of inferior like understand or guess what is that they most likely are using. But I think it's, again, there's what drove me was always this question of what is behind the success of that company. It was always about what is actually making that company so successful, and that desire to understand what was behind their strategies, and what was actually pretty much because another thing we say about the business model canvas, and it's pretty interesting, is what they call is a strategic fit. So you need to have a fit between the different blocks, because the different construction blocks of the business model canvas. So you're always trying to understand, okay, so this is the customer segment, this is the value proposition, what is the channel that connects these 2 blocks, and then what is the relationship, the customer relationship is being built to make that connection even stronger. So that sort of thing actually makes you kind of reflect and analyze if it makes sense and if it doesn't make sense. So again, I think that's why it's such a great tool to understand what's behind the success, what are the strategies that company is using.
Wow, awesome. Now, what makes the business model, in your words, superior to, say, a traditional business planning method?
So when I first discovered the business model canvas, I kind of fell in love with it. And my argument back then was it's way better than a business plan. And it's business plans are going to die. It's just something of the past. It's this old 50, 60-year-old tool that is just not up to date with the markets and how fast the markets are changing. When it was coming, actually, when it was being created, it was pretty much with the entire lean startup movement, which was all about, customer development and how we fail and test things fast and cheaply. So the business model canvas made a lot more sense back then. But nowadays, I think there is a place for both of them. But the business model canvas is, again, it's a one-page visual framework that the fact that it doesn't have a lot of text doesn't demand a lot of interpretation, makes collaboration a lot easier. Also, the entire idea is that you use post-its, so you can pretty much put and remove and change places. So you're kind of like in this sort of like prototyping mode, which is something that is very important when you are thinking of something new or something innovative. You're trying to find some disruptive business model, or you're trying to come up with this new startup, and you're just trying to create strategies that will make sense together. But eventually, when you become this, established company and you're working on developing a business plan that will help you with, projecting the next 3, 5 years or 10 years, a business plan can be a more valuable tool. So I would say they both have their places, but the business model canvas is definitely more valuable when you're trying to create something new. If it can be entire new company, a startup, or it can be maybe a new strategy within an established company, and you're just trying to come up with different hypotheses that you want to test and try them out.
So it has a lot to do with the stage at which the company is, the stage of growth they are at, and also obviously the context of that stage too.
Exactly.
Great.
Exactly.
Amazing. Now you said there are nine boxes or 9 sections on this model canvas. Maybe you want to explain the importance of the 9 blocks of the canvas and how they interconnect.
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned before, the first block is the customer segment, and this is important to understand why that is the first block. We usually try to come up with an idea, which is an idea for a product or service. That's what usually people fall in love with. But the entire thing that we have, it becomes more and more clear nowadays, is that you have to fall in love with the problem that your customer have. First, you have to fall in love with the customer, the problems they are dealing with and they are trying to solve. So if you know who your customer is, and that block's called customer segment. So you got to have a segment right within a market to target. So if you know and you define exactly who your customer segment is, then it makes sense to go and move to the second block, which is a value proposition. So considering that you have defined who that customer is, what are the problems they have, what are their needs, their desires, you can then come up with a proper value proposition that will then be the base, of a product or service offering. Then the third block, which now then will connect both this first couple of blocks I just described, is the distribution channels, right? So you want to have to reach that value proposition reaches that customer segment, and it needs to be a distribution channel that makes sense. And then we move into the customer relationship. So how do you make that connection even stronger? Usually, how can you make that kind of like become a loop of delivering value, but also connecting with your customers so you understand them and you just make that offering even better and more customized to them. And then the fifth block will be the revenue streams. So how then you capture value, right? Because you're creating, delivering value. Now I want to capture that value. And then you move, and that's the right side of the business model canvas, which is the as I said, while we were chatting before the podcast, that's the front stage of the business model canvas. This is the customer facing that everyone sees and understand how it works. Then you move to the left side of the business model canvas, which is the backstage. And then you will develop the strategies for what are the key activities. So in order to make the entire business operate and work, what are the main activities that you need to do, as well as the key resources, which is the next block. So what are the resources that you need? It might be a brand, it might be a database, it might be some I don't know, equipment or whatever it is that you need to make that whole thing operate. And then as the eighth block will be the key partnerships. And usually that means what kind of outsourcing you're going to do, what is that kind of like it's outside of your core business, and that's, partnering with other companies will be a better strategy. And then ninth block, the last block, will be the cost structure. So to operate that entire, business model, how much it's going to cost. And then you close the 9 blocks, and of course you will try to understand if have the revenue streams that you have are actually bigger than the cost structure, so you can have a profitable business. So when you look at the business model canvas framework, it all kind of makes sense, especially if you understand that they are interconnected, and there's a reason why they're placed in that organization or that structure. And if you use that in your favor, you will do a lot. You will design better business models, as well as analyze current businesses a lot, in a much more efficient way.
Any mistakes that businesses make when using the canvas, and if so, how can they avoid them?
So one thing is, there's no right or wrong, especially if you are, creating a business and something new, or trying to come up with something that is innovative or disruptive. But I would say that sometimes people have different interpretations of, for example, what is a partner? Should it be a partner, or should it be a distribution channel? So there may be different interpretations of what where that strategy should go. But I don't like the idea of people actually making mistakes when using the canvas. I think it's a canvas, right? Just like an artist use a canvas to paint their and make their art. There might be mistakes that at first look like a mistake, but eventually it might be something totally innovative and beautiful. You just have to open your mind to it. So I would say, if there's a mistake, the biggest one would probably be being too afraid of making mistakes, and that's usually what holds you back from designing and understanding, and maybe going beyond what is the status quo of different industries.
So you don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great, type of thing. Just do it and practice. Keep practicing.
Exactly.
Now, talking about practicing, I couldn't believe this. You've analyzed over 200 business models, and some of these include Pepsi, Nike, Sony, Walmart, Expedia, McDonald's, KFC, Samsung. I mean, the list just goes on. So what patterns or trends have you noticed across successful models?
So I would say that the biggest, the biggest trends are usually related to the scalability that the digitalization of businesses enable, right? So I would say that the biggest things, the two main things you see as something that is create very big companies, or very, very strong or dominant companies, are usually when they are a multi-sided a multi-sided marketplace. For example, Amazon, you have buyers and sellers, or Etsy is the same, and you could just Airbnb is the same. You have the hosts, you have the people that want to a place to stay. So that kind of pattern really allows companies to become huge because they are not necessarily investing or developing their own resources. They're not like Uber. They're not acquire a fleet of cars. They're just pretty much going after who has a car and who wants to ride. So being this multi-sided platform is definitely one of the biggest trends and strategies nowadays. The second one is just that subscription is also something that usually it creates a very, very strong businesses, especially financially speaking, because there's a lot less. It's a lot more predictable. I'm not saying it's easy. You're dealing with churn, and dealing with churn can be a nightmare. Netflix is winning this game, but when you see like Disney Plus, for example, they're really having a hard time with the churn that they have. And depending on the churn that you have, sometimes you're pretty much exchanging your entire subscriber base within 12 or 24 months. So that demands a lot of investment in marketing and sales. But usually speaking, subscription will make your company a lot more strong in terms of your financials. But there's a lot of interesting things, but I would say those two are the main ones that I could say usually come up within the biggest or more market dominant companies.
Interesting. So you said the model is really good for startups, but once you become an established company, you might go to another model like a planning model. But does the business model canvas can it benefit established companies? I mean, how can they benefit from it, or if they can?
They definitely can, because again, I think it makes the fact that you are using one-page framework that is visual, that you can easily use to facilitate and to discuss new ideas, and you can very easily prototype different strategies, is something that helps companies to kind of like maybe open a little bit more their heads, and it can be very useful, especially if you are again visiting websites like the Business Model Analyst, where you are looking at the business model canvas of Netflix, and so that's how Netflix works. What if we decide to adopt the same revenue stream as Netflix? How would that work? Of course, bigger companies have a lot harder time trying to innovate. There's a lot more to lose. People are somehow kind of like used to that status quo. That's what has been able to. That's how they became successful. But in a ever-changing market, with this new market dynamics where technology is just changing at increasing speed rates. I would say that if companies are not sometimes taking a little bit of their time, and of course I'm talking about their leaders, their C-level directors, if they're not pausing every now and then to kind of like go over their business model and try to think of something new, or even adopt some of the strategies that new companies are adopting, and try to prototype their business model with those new strategies, they probably will eventually be again eaten by some new disruptor, just like we've seen in the past, right? With Blockbuster and Netflix, for example, is of course one of those big cases that at least my generation saw happening, and it's pretty amazing how fast suddenly a market leader can just disappear if you're not looking at it, and if you're not at least trying to open your mind and understand that if it's happening, you need to accept, and the more you resist, the worse it's going to be. The longer you take to decide and take action, it's just gonna hurt you even more.
Yeah, that's interesting you bring up Blockbuster, because they only rented videos and DVDs and VHS and all that kind of stuff. Rogers, on the other hand, the cable company, internet company, also was doing what Blockbuster was doing. They had Rogers Rental, but they had two revenue streams, right? And so when the videos kind of fell out of, the DVDs fell out of popularity, they still had that internet going, right? So they survived, not unlike Blockbuster. So it's interesting that you bring that up. I was going to ask you too, what advice would you give to beginners who are exploring the business model canvas for the first time? Feel free to, if you've got some examples, feel free to show them too if you want to.
Sure. Like we can look at the website here, I have the article of the Netflix business model. I think that understanding how different companies, especially the companies that maybe you are familiar with, how they actually are, how their business models are designed, and what different strategies they use, and kind of go over pretty much just like how they, because if you see here, this entire blog post that we have here, we'll have, all of the different business model canvas blocks explained for Netflix. You can download for free a high resolution PDF of the business model canvas. And of course, you can also see the Netflix SWOT analysis and competitors, and just pretty much, try to choose a few here to go over and understand how you use the business model canvas to design the business model of a company. You can find easily here Amazon, you can find Nike, you can find any other bigger company, or even maybe startups that like OpenAI or DeepSeek. They are all here, and just start to design yourself. Also, in our website here, we have a section of free tools, so you can download here a business model canvas template for in PDF, in Word, in Excel, in Google Sheets, Google Slides, Google Docs. We have pretty much all different, PowerPoint. We have all different file formats here. So whatever works best for you, just go ahead and start to create it yourself. We're also about to release an application, which will eventually become like the main offering of our site, where you will be able just to type the name of the company or description of your company, and it's going to generate the business model canvas for you. So we're pretty excited for this, because it's going to help you just use AI to be, that sort of like brainstorming buddy that can come up with different ideas or different angles or different perspectives that you haven't had about that business model canvas. You'll be able to edit the canvas, delete items, add items. You'll be able to use, additional tools to understand your competitors, to do a SWOT analysis, etc. So AI really comes to help you with that sort of how to, to design your own business model canvas. And I would say that, again, as I mentioned before, there's no right or wrong. The most interesting part, I would say, again, is just how easily you can see in a single page how the entire company works, and really understand how the different strategies are connected to each other. And if you start to understand that, when you have a customer segment defined, and then you have a value proposition, and then you go and decide your distribution channel, and you kind of look at those three and pause, look, step back and say, okay, do they make sense? Is that channel a channel that really would be a channel that would impact my customer segment? And so if you just reflect and question yourself, and of course discuss with your business partners or your colleagues, you'll eventually be able to become, again, a business analyst yourself. Because again, I would say that use as much visual tools as you can. So I am a big fan not only of the business model canvas. I nowadays love to, as you can see here as well with the free templates, I like doing a PASL analysis. I like doing a SWOT analysis. I love doing an empathy map and that sort of frameworks in general that are very visual, that help you really have a better understanding and reflect better on the business strategies that you're trying to develop for your business. But again, just one last time, there's no right or wrong. Just go ahead, start doing it, and don't be afraid if that makes sense or not. And it's okay if it doesn't make sense at first. You just keep iterating, and changing and updating and moving information around, and eventually you will find something that makes sense and that can be possibly a very good strategy for your business.
That's amazing. I don't know if you can afford to at the moment, but you talked about that AI software. Do you have a demo that you could show us, or is it still under development?
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to show you here really quick. So we are still like in this pre-beta, but we are looking, probably trying to release mid or late March. But so this is the application here, and what you can do is that you can create company spaces. So, for example, let's say I can create a company and I enter details, but I'm just gonna to speed up here. I'm gonna use one company that I created calling Roofing for All, which is a roofing company, and I can come here and, for example, decide that I want to do I can do a business model canvas. So it's just going to load all the information I have previously entered about this company. And if I click generate, it's going to, generate a business model canvas with not only the canvas itself, but also an entire explanation of each one of the strategies within each one of the construction blocks. And that allows me to kind of like not only understand or decide on how that business model canvas is going to be. So as you can see here, I have, because in customer segments, homeowners seeking for roof repairs or homeowners needing roof replacements. And then as a value proposition, I can have like a reliable and high quality roofing solutions, transparent communication with clients. So what I can do here, pretty much, I can come and let's say, I like the real estate, I like the property management, but like new homeowners, it's something I don't see me doing. So I can just delete this here. I can then come down here and edit this as well. And so, for example, here I can come, as I said here, the new installations, I can come and delete this. But what I can also do is that I can, for example, come here and just chat with the AI and say pretty much like, tell me more about this customer segment. And I start to talk about it. And it's just gonna, kind of like go over and interact with me. But we can also create like playbooks, which is I can just come here and say, okay, I want to do a SWOT analysis, and then I want to do a business model canvas, and then I want to do a better like buying persona that company.
Mm.
And once I generate that takes a little longer. But what the AI is doing here is that you have it's pretty much a bunch of AI agents that are specialized in different frameworks. And what they're going to do is that they're going to do this in a sequence, and they are always kind of learning from the previous framework they used. And then I have more, robust document with this analysis that I can again interact with, and I can come up with new ideas. And eventually we also have like tasks. So let's say it comes up with a new strategy here, and I want to turn that into a task. So I want to execute or task that. So again, we are playing with AI. We're playing with this new world of large language models. We are playing with different models out there. We're combining different models as well, in order to allow people to have a deeper or analysis, as well as help them just maybe come up with these new business ideas, and maybe find something that is disruptive and that can help them create something that will be successful. So just to quick show here, we have the business model canvas, but also, for example, we have here we have the buying persona. So this is being generated with AI as well. So Sarah, 45 years old, she lives in Ottawa, which is the location of that roofing company, because I actually use that information when I was creating the company. What's the income range? What's their homeowner status? So again, you're using AI and different frameworks in your favor to just have a better analysis and come up with better strategies.
Well, that's amazing. Now, what's just out of curiosity, what's the ETA on this beta model coming out?
So we are trying to aim for third week of March. So I would say we would like to have a beta released to the public within a couple of weeks. We have a beta testing group that has been helping us just on using the platform and providing feedback. And again, I'm trying to create here what would be a sidekick, analyst for any consultant or entrepreneur that wants to create and design better businesses.
And what's, just out of curiosity too, what's the accuracy of this form of AI? Would you say it's 50% correct, 60%, 80%? I mean, there's still some editing that has to be done from the end by the user, right? By the business analyst or
exactly. So again, that's one of the things you can actually. Large language models are getting better every day. Okay, they're also becoming faster. They are just it's amazing how much they have been evolving. But one thing you can do, and that's something that we kind of have been playing with in our backstage or the back office, or in an application, say back end, is the temperature of the LLM answers. And what temperature means is pretty much you want it to be very creative or more precise. And there are benefits in both for both of them, right? But I think that when you're working with a AI, you want it to, especially if you're trying to create something innovative and disruptive, you want it to provide something you haven't thought about. You don't want it to be like 100% by the book. It's going to be 100% by the book, or not 100%, I would say, but a lot more precise if you're, let's say, if I was doing this for Netflix, which is a company that is well known. There's a bunch of information out there about it. So of course the company, the AI is going to be it's not it won't come up with things that haven't been thought of, because there's so much information about Netflix. But if you're creating a company that is from scratch, something entirely new, you actually want it to come up with ideas you haven't thought about. But overall, I would say it's pretty good. It's most of the time, I would say that I am usually surprised in a good way and amazed by it. Then looking and say, no, this is not correct. Because if it's not correct, it's usually not a problem of the AI model. It's how we are prompting it in the back end. So I kind of just gotta refine it a little bit more and make sure that we are doing something that is that helps a better to the AI to come a better output.
Splendid. Yeah, a lot of this really is how you write those input commands. That definitely influences the output from AI.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely superb, and I really want to thank you very much for the models that you've shown us and your website, which people can certainly go to and download. Just out of curiosity, if you want to give us the URL for that website.
So yeah, you'll be able to. So the website is www.businessmodelanalyst.com, and once we release the application, it's going to be on the main website. So you will just access through businessmodelanalyst.com. So it will be the main domain, will be the application. And if you want to access the articles, it's going to be, or just like it is nowadays, but it's businessmodelanalyst.com/blog. Right. So that's where you can find the articles. But usually if you look at, if you just search on Google for like Netflix business model, we're probably within the top 3 results. If not, just add business model analyst and you're going to find it as well.
Cool. And they can download not just the Netflix business model, but other ones as well. And templates
exactly.
that you want to use from the website.
Exactly. We have hundreds. You can download them. And soon you'll be able to create your own using AI, not only the business model canvas, but as I was showing here, we have a bunch of different frameworks that right now, I think we are around 16 different frameworks or close to it. And the idea, and we have in our roadmap here, way more. We should have 30, 40, 50, eventually more that you'll be able to use for different areas. You will have frameworks for HR, frameworks for finance, framework for market research, just like we have here right now. But there's a lot more that we want to release and help you with thinking, analyzing, and come up with strategies for your business.
That's amazing. It's not just the application, but knowing how to use the application. And I think it really takes you to a completely different level, certainly as a business analyst. And it's just a hop, skip, and a jump away from where you used to be. And if you're not adapting, then you're way behind. So thank you once again, exactly. Daniel Pereira. Splendid. One last thing before you go. How can anyone get in touch with you apart from your website? You're on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. You can look for Daniel Pereira, Business Model Analyst, or send me an email to daniel@businessmodelanalyst.com. You can reach out directly to me. I'm pretty accessible. So those would be the main ways to contact me.
Well, great. Thank you, Daniel. I really appreciate you coming on and explaining this to everyone. And it's a huge advantage for BAs in general, and of course, business strategists as well. So thank you once again.
Thank you, Marcus. Thanks for having me.
All right.
It was a pleasure.
You're welcome. Take care.
You too.
Thank you. Great. Okay. Bye.
Bye.